It was a beautiful day for racing at the Kansas Speedway. The championship battle extremely tight at the top as the Sprint Cup Series went into round 3 of the chase, trying to build on the drama from the previous 2 events.
Previously in the chase.
Be ready.
Go, 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 go.
Oh, we got trouble getting in 3, guys.
And Joey Logano is around. End over end, side over side.
I don't know how to say sorry enough to Joey.
There, you're going to have to deal with this 5 car before this day's over with.
Watch this 42 coming up behind you here, but pretty quick. Just keep your eyes open.
And Jimmy Johnson wins it at Dover.
That's right, boys. Maximum points. Thank you.
Nice work, Johnson. Nice work. It's all about desire. You got to have a want to get this thing done here this year.
12 drivers, 10 races, 1 champion. The calendar says autumn, but already the Iceman cometh. He's closed within a whisper of the outright lead, his cold stare fixated on unprecedented glory. But with experience in front and nothing to lose behind, the defending champ enters the heartland a marked man. They say familiarity breeds contempt. Here, velocity breeds danger.
Here comes Jimmy Johnson. In the wall. Oh, wow. And Johnson will take the win.
That's a finish right there, boys.
As the pack begins to thin, so too your chances to turn what you need into what you desire.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the post-race edition of NASCAR Now. I'm Mike Massaro, along with Boris Said, and race 3 of the chase is now in the record books. And Boris, what'd you think?
I thought it was a great race. I was really excited to see if this Hendrick domination was going to continue. I wanted to see someone else step up, maybe the Roush Fenway or maybe one of the petty cars and knock them off their block. But as we'll see, same old, same old.
Well, in a sense, the Hendrick domination did continue. Let's see what I'm talking about. Mark Martin, one of those Hendrick guys, on top of the championship lead. One of his Hendrick teammates, Jimmy Johnson, only 10 points back, getting ready to buckle in. And it was an all-Hendrick front row with Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the outside of pole sitter Mark Martin.
Yeah, and he got a great start, followed right in behind Mark Martin, and the race is on.
And Mark Martin would lead that first lap, but early problems for Joey Logano. And after last week, this was the last thing he wanted to see happen.
Yeah, Joey got loose in front of the field. Luckily, this time he didn't do the 8 barrel rolls like he did last weekend, and nobody hit him. And Joey didn't have really much damage on his car, so he was able to continue.
Still ended up 20th on the day, although he was on all 4 tires. Problems, though, also for Paul Menard.
Yeah, same thing as Joey Logano. Maybe it was that tar of death, as Kurt Busch described it, but he took out some innocent victims on this one with the 71 car, the 6 car. So unfortunate wreck their day.
Yeah, heavy damage to Bobby Labonte on the restart. Dale Earnhardt Jr. continuing to look strong.
Yep, Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans are clapping today. Dale Jr. out front. It's been a while since he's been leading dominant like he was today.
Yeah, and led a bunch of laps. Looked like it would be a good day for Dale Earnhardt Jr., but things would eventually change. Lap 31, the favorites coming in, Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson, starting to show their strength.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson started a little near the back, but he was racing his way to the front.
And pit stops, the complexion of the race changed dramatically for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, the Jackman here let the car down a little early. They dropped the lug. They had to serve a drive-through penalty under green. Unfortunately, he was never to be able to recover from this. Put him a lap down, wrecked his day.
During that sequence of pit stops, also problems for Carl Edwards, serving a speeding penalty. He would go a lap down as well. Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson passing Brad Keselowski to take the race lead.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson wanted that benefit and be leading again.
Lap 71, though, we move ahead. Greg Biffle is the leader. He brings the field down pit road. He elects to take 2 tires. Mark Martin a little bit slower, takes 4 tires there, and they make their way off pit road. Biffle is your leader once the pit stops are completed. Jimmy Johnson, though, on the charge, trying to bypass Greg Biffle.
Yeah, Greg Biffle was really strong with these 2 tires, and he fought Jimmy Johnson off for a long time. It was a real shot in the arm for the Roush Fenway guys to run this competitive.
But look at the move Johnson used to finally get by Greg Biffle. A little bit of a pick here.
Yeah, that's the pick move like in basketball. He just got slowed down by Max Pappas, and Jimmy Johnson flew right by.
Lap 126. Cinderella man, well, it hasn't been a Cinderella story, that's for sure, for Brian Vickers. He spins out. Vickers struggled all race long, never seemed to get the feel of that race car. Lap 136, a guy who started to show some strength a week ago, Matt Kenseth, engine problems there. He would end up 39th on the day. Lap 147, toward the midpoint of the race, more pit stops, and Jimmy Johnson would come down pit road. He'd take 4 tires on this particular pit stop, while many of the leaders took 2.
Yeah, he lost a lot of track position, and unlike at the start of the race, he wasn't able to get up through the pack like he did at the beginning of the race.
And after that, his car just not handling all that well either, especially in traffic, as you can see here, he's trying to bypass Casey Kane, trying to get back to the front. Lap 161, another guy starting to show his strength. That's the 14 car.
Yeah, Tony Stewart was quiet the first half of the race, but when it counted, he was racing to the front.
Okay, lap 202, Greg Biffle gave up the lead to make a pit stop. Comes on down pit road. Lap 209 as we get closer and closer to the checkers. Fuel becoming an issue. Kurt Busch trying to stretch his fuel mileage, able to come down pit road a little bit later than everybody else. Lap 217, as we mentioned, Vickers, not a good day for him. Retired from the race with engine issues. He ends up 37th. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle continued to lead the race, waiting to see how the fuel situation would play out. 33 laps in the end, and Dale Jr.'s day is over.
Yeah, it looks like they lost an oil pump belt or something. I think this brought out a caution. They had to check the track for oil, and this is where everything changed right here. The crew chiefs had to make a tough decision whether they put 2 tires or 4 tires. Had a big outcome on the race.
Yep, and Greg Biffle elected to take 4. Tony Stewart just took 2. Juan Pablo Montoya also took 4, but not happy with the decision. He had a few choice words for his crew chief, Brian Patty, feeling a little bit uncomfortable in the race car.
Not fine. Not fine at all. I can't even make it work. That's freaking incredible.
Relax. Focus. 34-0, 80 in front.
If you were driving this right now, you wouldn't be telling me that.
You're right. That's why you get paid more. Focus, dude. P8. Big picture.
Exactly. Big picture. You should hit them.
Well, on the restart, the focus was up front on the 14 of Tony Stewart. Only took 2 tires, but able to get a very good jump for it.
Yeah, and he got out in that clean air, and like we've seen time and time again, clean air means everything in these cars.
And here come those guys who took 4 tires, Jeff Gordon and Greg Biffle. I thought they were going to catch it.
Yeah, it looked like they were, but catching and passing are 2 different things.
Exactly. Tony Stewart put the car in the wind. Clean air proved to be his friend. He picks up his 4th victory of the season. Now sitting 4th in the chase standings, just 67 points behind Mark Martin. Tony Stewart, as we mentioned, picks up his 4th victory this year, joins Jeff Gordon as the only other driver to win multiple times at Kansas. Gordon finishes runner-up for the 7th time this season. Greg Biffle led the most laps, but came home 3rd, and chasers took up 10 of the top 11 spots, while David Ruderman was the top non-chaser in 8th. And for more on the Tony Stewart story, we go out to the racetrack and bring in Nicole Mansky. And Nicole, Tony made great gains here in the chase. That said, what was the mood following the victory?
Well, it was a quick celebration. In fact, Ryan Newman, his teammate, went into victory lane to approach Tony Stewart, and you would think it would be to congratulate his boss and teammate. Instead, Newman said, "Can we get out of here in a hurry?" Both of them are off to drive late model cars tonight, so Stewart was a bit brief in his post-race celebration and his post-race interviews, but he did have time to give all of the credit for Darian Grubb.
You have to take those bad days, and like Darian said, I mean, they weren't days that we wanted, but at the end of the day, no matter what the circumstance that got us behind, I mean, we were able to rebound from it, not get all the way up to where we wanted, but we were able to make gains on it at the end and you know, salvage a better finish than where we were. So, you know, whatever the scenarios were, we were able to overcome part of it. But, you know, as long as you do that at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the outcomes weren't what we wanted, but the fact that we, you know, it just shows this team doesn't have any quit in them, and that's what it's going to take to get back on top.
With this win, Tony Stewart has now won 5 times in chase races. But how about this for a number? 3 of those came in 2006 when Stewart actually missed the chase. The past couple of years, his numbers in the chase races have dropped a little bit. But this year, he has picked up his game just a bit. He's averaging an 8th place finish in the chase races so far. Mike?
Now, Nicole, coming into this race, it appeared there was an opportunity for Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson to really stretch things out. After all, they were a couple of the favorites coming into this race. Had solid finishes, both inside the top 10, but instead of stretching things out, the chase standings have gotten tighter. What was their reaction to the way everything shook out today?
There was a bit of a general consensus that those two drivers may have opened the door just a little bit with their bad races today. Keep in mind, both of them did finish within the top 10, but the top 8 drivers are now separated by fewer than 115 points. But to that, Mark Martin said, I hope my 7th place finish was a bad day, because even though he finished 7th, he still gained points on Jimmie Johnson. He now leads by 18 points. And here's another number. The leader at this point in the season, and 4 of the last 5 years, has gone on to win the title. Mark Martin now leads.
Yeah, this could be a good indicator for Mark Martin. Nicole, thanks for your help. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now, Boris, as we look at this race, it really appeared that it was decided in the final 30 laps. Lots of decisions, lots of hard racing. Break it down for us.
Yeah, with 28 laps to go, the crew chiefs had to make the key decision. When they came down pit road, do we put 2 tires on or 4 tires? Greg Biffle, who was leading the race, was forced into putting 4 tires on because at the previous stop he put 2. But Tony Stewart, Jimmie Johnson, and Casey Kane all took 2 tires, got track position, ended up coming out in the lead. And that proved to be key, because time and time again all year long with the COT car, clean air means a lot. On the restart, Casey Kane got a terrible restart. Jimmie Johnson almost ran into the back of him. He had to check up, lost a lot of momentum. That allowed Tony Stewart to get out in that clean air and get a great restart. Now Jimmie Johnson with his 4 tires and Greg Biffle, they have to battle to try to get by Casey Kane. Here we go, Jeff Gordon and Greg Biffle with their 4 tires are racing towards the front, but do they have time to catch Tony Stewart? As we'll find out in a minute. Tony Stewart had a big lead. It looked like Jeff Gordon could really get into the corners, but Tony Stewart was getting great exits and getting a run down the straightaway. And Jeff Gordon just couldn't get to his rear bumper at the end of the race. So Tony Stewart made the right call. On the final lap, here he comes to the checker flag. Jeff Gordon's getting smaller. Tony Stewart's happy, and he's going to win this race. First win for him in the chase right now, making a happy man. Jeff Gordon, he's wondering what would be.
And clean air, once again, proving more powerful than 4 fresh tires.
You said it.
Hey, let's take it to the next level and look at some statistics here. 3 teams gambled and took only 2 tires in the final pit stop. Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, and Jimmie Johnson. Those drivers restarted 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. But while Kane and Johnson dropped off quickly, losing more than half a second per lap to Stewart, Smoke was able to maintain his position with the average, or the advantage, I should say, of clean air and hold on for the win. Not every chaser was as fortunate as Mark Martin, Jimmie Johnson, and Tony Stewart. We'll take a look at some of the other chasers' days when we come back. Entering the chase's 3rd race, Mark Martin held a 10-point edge over his teammate and 3-time defending champion Jimmie Johnson. Juan Pablo Montoya entered the race 3rd after finishing 3rd and 4th in the first 2 chase races. And Kurt Busch was the only other driver within 100 points of the chase lead. Mark Martin, well, had a promising day ahead of him. Started on the pole, led 11 laps, and ended up finishing 7th. Still the points leader, stretched it out a little bit, now ahead by 18 points, heading to Fontana.
We were off all weekend, just never quite got the car to turn in the center of the corner and keep our drive off. So we couldn't get both. We could get one and it would cripple the other. And it was a hard-fought battle by these guys, and I'm so proud of them. It's pretty awesome when you can, when you can miss it and race your guts out and get a top 10 finish. I'm proud of the result. I think it's a great race team, and I hope it's a bad day. It's not as good a day as we've had lately, so comparatively speaking, we were off today, and it was still a fantastic result.
Jimmie Johnson's Dover win, coupled with the fact that he won at Kansas a year ago, made him a favorite coming in. Started 11th and ran inside the top 10, but not exactly what he was looking for. Ended up 9th, still 2nd in the standings, but trails now by 18 points with 7 to go.
It's way too early to tell. It's only 3 races in, worst finish is 9th, and we just don't know what's going to happen. It's easy to let momentum build for someone or be against someone at this point, but it's just way too early for myself to even start worrying about it. I hate losing points. I felt like we got a shot to win the race, and I don't know what went on about 3 stops from the end. We had a car that was so fast, so we got to figure out what went on there and sort that out, but still a lot of racing left.
And Juan Pablo Montoya came into this race third in the standings, looking to advance his position. Would not do that. At the end of the day, he remained third in the standings, but closed his deficit a little bit. Now only 51 points back. Started 14th and finished fourth on the day.
I don't know, but you just gotta, we're going at it, whatever it takes. Keselowski's, it's okay. I got inside of him, and I don't think they told him I was there, and he just turned into me a little bit, and it's okay. It's one of those deals. But we were in this Target Chevy, has done an amazing job, and everybody, 5 Shop keeps building great cars, and engineering keeps, making, when they give you good cars, you look good.
Kurt Busch had his work cut out for him. A miserable qualifying effort put him 39th on the grid to begin the day, but he charged his way to the front, a respectable finish, ended up 11th, even led 2 laps. However, he did drop 1 position in the standings to 5th. He's now 91 points out. Still, his crew chief pretty pleased.
We missed it on Friday. We're actually pretty good today. We had a little problem. We had a loose wheel, and that got us back, and pitted the one time. The caution came out, and so we were lapped down and got to wave around. So we had to come from the back 3 times, and so to finish 11th, we were a little bit too loose there at the end. Otherwise, I think we'd had a, 6th through 10th somewhere. But all in all, it wasn't a bad day. It just wasn't what we wanted.
Denny Hamlin stumbled a little bit in race 2, trying to recover in Kansas. Started mid-pack, 22nd, and another one of those drivers who worked his way to the front. Ended up 5th, still remains 6th in the standings, and less than 100 points out, just 99 back.
It was a pretty good day. We made our car a little bit better every stop, and I told Mike to adjust it out that last stop. I felt like we'd be too free on the short run, but we tightened it up like I asked for, and it was just a little bit too much. And then I think just being on that top line was going to be a big benefit, and just us getting bottled up right there with the 48 and whatnot just kept us from really going when the first 3 laps were our strength all day long.
Considering his teammate went to victory lane, it was a surprising and probably disappointing day for Ryan Newman. Started 30th, ended up finishing 22nd, dropped from 7th to 9th in the standings, and now is a distant 160.4 markers back.
Well, when your teammate wins, you want to do better than that. We'd like a 1-2 finish at least someday, but congratulations to Tony and his crew. And U.S. Army guys, they fought back, but we just we had a car that went from really tight to really loose with not changing very much. And had a really bad pit stop there in a green that got us 2 laps down, and then we fought back to get 1 lap down and just couldn't run out of time, basically. Just unfortunate. We can't seem to hit on it the whole race.
Jeff Gordon, another one of those Hendrick cars people expected to do well in Kansas. He did all right, I would say. Started 9th and finished 2nd. His 7th runner-up finish of the year, and with that made some marginal gains in the standings. Moved from 8th to 7th in points, 103 points out of the lead right now.
He's almost there to hero. He didn't fix it completely, but still a great day for the DuPont Chevrolet. We came a long ways. That shows what kind of great team we have. We were really far off at the beginning of this race. The funny thing is, all weekend long, when the balance wasn't right, the speed was still decent. So, got to give the engine shop, the chassis shop, all the guys back in the 24, 48, 5, and 88 shop. Great effort for us. Really proud of Steve and all the guys today in the pits. That's the kind of effort that we got to show, if we're going to win this championship.
Jeff Gordon giving praise to his crew chief, Steve Letarte, and Greg Biffle probably wants to give some praise to his crew chief, Greg Irwin, as well. Started 31st, and dug his way to the front, ended up finishing 3rd, and led 6 times for a race-high 113 laps, and is now 114 points out of 1st.
I tell you, it was a great run for the Sherwin-Williams paint car. Excited to have 3M on it as well, but I felt like Irwin wanted to do 2 at the end, and I really felt 4 tires was the right call, and it was just too loose on 4 tires. And we had a great race with some of those guys out there today. Feel good about getting back up front and running hard, but just feel so bad I didn't get that win. Thorn in the side, but just too loose and put the gas down at the end and got beat.
The Cinderella story just is not playing out for Brian Vickers. Spun out on lap 126, brought out the caution. Just a disastrous day for the Vic. Started 12th and ended up finishing 37th. In the process, dropped from 10th in the standings all the way to 12th in points. He's in the basement, 250 points out of the lead.
Anything's possible. I mean, obviously we're off to a slow start. the Hendrick cars are really, starting to walk away with the chase. But, they've done a good job. I just want to get out of Kansas, to be honest. It's been a long weekend for me. But, I thought we had a good car today, and we started out a little tight, and it got worse and worse and worse. We never could get a handle on it. And then I was up on top of the track trying to chase grip, trying to find some grip, and I got in the marbles and lost, and that was completely my fault, and I feel bad about it. Hate it for the guys, but we just weren't as good as a whole as we needed to be today. We just absolutely weren't.
Carl Edwards was the story at the conclusion of last year's Kansas race. We all remember his bonsai move. Today, however, just not in a position to do that. Started 17th, managed to crack the top 10. He finished 10th and moved to 10th in the standings right now, 165 points back.
It was going great till some idiot sped on pit road. That was me. So, still, we rallied back. My pit crew did a great job. Greg ran really well with the Sherwin-Williams car up front. Our Aflac Fusion was so good on long runs, but on the short run, I couldn't do anything with him. So I thought there at the end, Bob made enough adjustment to get it to go on the short run, but man, just couldn't do it. Had a great race with the Bushes, though. That was a lot of fun at the end. I just wish we were racing for that win.
And Casey Kane continues to try to dig his way out of the hole that was built after a race 1 engine failure. Today he started 6th, and that's exactly where he finished. But in the process was able to gain a spot in the standings. He's no longer 12th. He's now 11th in points.
Well, it's good. I mean, we've always run pretty strong in a lot of these chase races. Maybe I've crashed or done something to screw that up at times throughout the last 5 years, but we always have pretty good cars at this time of the year, and the team does a nice job. So I think we should be good in the final 5. I think we gained a little bit because I beat both of them, so we probably gained maybe 10 points. We're still probably 180 behind. So I mean, we're a ways back, but we definitely gained today. And if we beat those guys, you got to feel all right about it. They run pretty strong each week, so it's an all right day.
Here's your up-to-date standings. Things are a little tighter at the top of the chase points after Kansas. The top 3 remain the same, but Tony Stewart moves into 4th. There were only 4 drivers within 100 points of the lead entering Kansas, but now 6 drivers are within 100 of the lead. Ryan Newman and Brian Vickers both fell 2 spots following their rough days. All right, now, Boris, let's talk about the winners and losers today. Obviously, Tony Stewart a winner, but in your mind, who missed the opportunity today?
Well, I think the Roush Fenway cars, I mean, they've definitely shown some progress. It looks like they're regaining some of that magic that they've had, last year, how dominant they were on the mile-and-a-half tracks. But the one thing that comes to mind, this chase is so close. I mean, today we had 10 guys in the chase in the top 11 positions. So even if you finish in the top 10, it's hard to gain ground on these Hendrick cars right now. So it's really going to take some bad luck or some catastrophe for these guys to make any ground on Jimmy Johnson and Mark Martin and even Tony Stewart now.
Well, Tony Stewart, not technically a Hendrick car, but Hendrick motors and chassis, well, they are awfully powerful. Powerful enough to put him back in victory lane. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Tony's victory Sunday.
First, his team used a 2-tire strategy on the first caution flag pit stop to get him up front. He led the most laps on the day, here passing Jimmy Johnson. Biffle out front for 113 of the 267 laps. But on the last pit stop of the day, Biffle's crew went for 4 tires when they came in leading, while Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, and Jimmy Johnson's teams went for just right side tires. Biffle came out 4th. He finished 3rd. Tony Stewart got out in front as he took the lead off those final pit stops, held off Jeff Gordon, and Tony Stewart scores the win in chase race number 3 on Sunday at the Kansas Speedway. And inside the ESPN pit studio, Alan Bestwick with Rusty Wallace and Brad Daugherty. Rusty, you've been there 100 times, maybe more, inside the car when you and your crew chief, you're leading, you're trying to make the decision on that final strategy call. Put us in Biffle's shoes. What were they going through?
Biffle drove the car. He knew what was how the car was handled the last couple of times on those 2-tire stops. But at the very end, the crew chief and himself were talking back and forth. And at that point, you go to the crew chief. You say, hey, look, you can see the big picture. You make the decision. Whether it was right or wrong, they went with the crew chief.
And the crew chief wanted the 2 tires. Biffle said maybe we should get 4. They went with the 4. He wound up finishing 3rd. On the other side of the coin, Tony Stewart winning this race on Sunday. What'd that do for he and his team and their championship hopes?
Well, they had struggled the past few weeks. We all have documented that. And after they got into the chase earlier in the year, they kind of took a big, deep breath as a company because they've been thrashing all year to get to this point. And they struggled with just little things. They've refocused, got themselves back into championship contention. They will be a threat going forward. They utilized Biffle's strategy at the end of the race to take the 2 tires that he had used earlier and beat him with his own strategy.
Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson were not the dominant force in Sunday's Kansas race that they had been in the first 2 chase races, though Martin continues to lead the championship. Any concern for either one of those two?
Not really any concern for Jimmy Johnson or Mark Martin. They're still really solid. They finished 7th and 9th today. They know they got a little work to do in these flatter style racetracks like the track we're going to, California, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think they're just fine right now.
Yeah, just got knocked off their game just a little bit. Still had really solid finishes, and we're working our way back towards Lowe's Motor Speedway, where we know who is very, very good.
That would be Jimmy Johnson you speak of. So of the top 11 finishers, 10 were chasers for the championship. The #1 finisher on Sunday at Kansas was Tony Stewart. He's 4th in the championship, 67 points from the lead.
And thank you, Alan. Looking at some more race notes. Greg Biffle led the most laps and finished 3rd. It matches his best finish of the season. He last finished 3rd at Dover back in May. Mark Martin finished 7th, which snapped his run of top 5 finishes, but it's his 6th straight top 10. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. looked like a contender early on. His time spent out front was only the 2nd time he's led in the last 20 races. Joining us now is the race winner from Kansas, Tony Stewart. Tony, thanks for being with us. Congratulations. Got to talk to you about that late race pit call by Darian Grubb to take 2 tires. What were your thoughts when he made that call?
I was very comfortable with it. I mean, we had taken 2 tires earlier in the race, and the car had really good speed taking off with 2 tires. So when he made that call, it was right in line. I mean, I was thinking the same thing. So it was, you know, a comfortable feeling for me. But the pit crew was what got us out first, and you know, we beat out 3 or 4 guys that took 2 tires. So getting that track position and getting to choose what lane I wanted on the restart, I think was you know, the key to winning this race today.
Still, things did get a little interesting in those closing laps. What were your thoughts as the 16 and the 24 pursued you, knowing they took 4?
You know, I knew that Greg was really good. Obviously, he was good the whole last half of the race and was the dominant car. But, you know, I knew if we ever got track position that we would have a shot at holding them off, and especially with 28 laps to go. I mean, those guys weren't going to waste any time. And I knew that we had a good enough car taken off that if we could make them have to overdrive their cars to try to catch us, that we could get them to abuse their tires and, you know, make them probably get tighter than they needed to be late in the race there. So, you know, once we got about 15 laps under our belt there, you know, then Jeff got to 2nd, and once Jeff started closing, then we had to start running a little harder and not save our tires for the end of the race in case we had a green-white checkered. So, you know, we didn't have much left. I mean, there was just about, I didn't use 100%, but I used enough that you know, we could hold him off there for those last couple laps. But it wasn't, we weren't holding much back.
Big picture, huge gain in the points. How would you describe the way the chase was going before this win?
Well, I mean, you know, it's hard to predict what's going to happen. I mean, obviously we weren't where we wanted to be, but, you know, the good thing is that we've got momentum today. We gained a lot of points, and we're in striking distance again with 7 weeks to go. So we're in good shape. We just got to go out and do our jobs like we did that got us in the lead and kept us in the lead for a long time this year. So, you know, we got that momentum on our side, and that's something that's going to be really key going into California next week.
Yeah, momentum definitely is a key, and mental attitude is a big thing too. How much of a boost do you think this will be, not only for yourself, but your entire team?
I think it's going to be huge. I mean, everybody at Stewart Haas Racing has done an awesome job getting us to this point, and now responding now that we're in the chase. So, you know, it's attitude is everything these last 7 weeks, and you know, I got a group of guys that are still excited just that they made the chase, and now after a day like this is what's going to carry us these last 7 weeks, and you know, proud of Office Depot and Old Spice and Burger King and U.S. Army and Coke, and especially Chevrolet, who locked up the manufacturer's title today. So, you know, it's nice to be able to get a win and get that title for them.
What's remarkable about this is that this is just the first year for Stewart Haas Racing. Has there been any examples?
Really? Are you kidding me? This is the first year?
It is absolutely amazing. Wow. I mean, there's so many people scratching their head. Is there any way that this being a first year has been a disadvantage? It doesn't look like that at the racetrack.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily, it's a first-year team, but it's not a first-year organization. You know, it was Haas CNC Racing before I got there, and it wasn't like we built it from the ground up this year. Those tools and key pieces of equipment and some of the people were in place. We just needed to find a couple other key people to tie it all together. But that's why it's not such a surprise to see us do as well as we have, because we've got the Hendrick engines, Hendrick chassis. We still got to go out and outrun 4 Hendrick cars every race and 5 today. So we did our job and did it right, but just we couldn't do it with that group, and we couldn't do it without all the people at Stewart-Haas Racing that have been at Haas for 6 years, and a new group of guys that have come together that are really hungry to win races and a championship.
All right, next up, Fontana, a place where you ran in the top 10 back in the spring. What's your outlook heading there?
Well, I think we're going to be better this time. I mean, we weren't stellar, but that was really I think our second or third race with the team. So we were still in that learning each other phase, where now we're pretty much in tune with each other, and I think we're going to be a lot better this coming week.
All right, Tony, congratulations and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gave his fans plenty of reason for optimism on Sunday at Kansas. He led 41 laps. We'll talk a little bit more about his day when we return. It's the Monday Night Football event everyone's been waiting for. The Green Bay Packers head to Minnesota to take on the Vikings and Brett Favre. That's 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. Things get started with Monday Night Countdown at 7 p.m. served by Applebee's. Time now to go into the trenches and hear from the pit reporters who called the race in Kansas, starting with Dave Byrne.
Of course, Tony Stewart was the winner today at Kansas, moved to 4th in points and looked very, very strong. One of the reasons, Darian Grubb told me that the car with which he won today had been raced 3 times, but in the last 2 iterations was definitely not as good. The updates to the body allowed Tony to get the car into the corner much better without losing any of the center of the corner and driving off. Is Tony Stewart going to be a threat for the championship? You bet, because they're only getting better.
Jeff Gordon and the 24 team knew they needed a good run in Kansas in order to get back into the championship hunt. And what started off as a terrible day turned into a great one. In fact, at one point, Jeff Gordon said he didn't think anything would be able to fix the car. Well, Steve Letarte to the rescue. Not only did they fix it, but they made it great. Jeff Gordon came away with a 2nd place finish in Kansas.
I'm Vince Welch, and in my area of the pit lane today, I'm going to give my tip of the cap to the 16 team and their driver, Greg Biffle. Crew Chief Greg Irwin told me that starting 31st today, he figured it might take 2/3 of the race to get within striking position. But this team was already in the lead at lap 72. And not only in the lead at lap 72, but Biffle went on to lead the most laps in the race today and collect those bonus points. So starting 31st, Greg Biffle made a big move today, finishes 3rd, and gains position in the chase as well.
I'm Jamie Little, and today I was covering Denny Hamlin. All in all, it was a pretty good day for the 11 team. On the final pit stop, though, they opted to take 4 tires. Then they had to restart on the inside line. That was the first time all day that they had to start there. The car was working great on the outside, but despite all that, they ended up finishing 5th. The crew chief, Mike Ford, told me he's breathing a sigh of relief to have his 2 worst tracks behind him, Dover and, of course, Kansas. He said to watch for this 11 team to be a big-time threat as we kick it off the rest of the chase in California next weekend.
Thanks, guys. And now for some more observation from the garage, we welcome in ESPN.com writer Terry Blunt. And Terry, the 88 team, Dale Earnhardt Jr., they led 41 laps. Looked like they were going to be a contender for the win. Then they had the problem on pit road and ultimately blew an engine and finished way in the back. Why can't this team catch a break?
I tell you, Mike, I don't want to stand too close to Dale Jr. these days. I'm afraid he may be under some voodoo curse or something like that. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I have never seen a driver as snake bit as he is and that team is this season. They just can't catch a break. I mean, today he clearly had a car that could run up front, probably could have contended to win. Then, you know, they drop a lug nut, they're a lap down, they come in on the next pit stop, they get caught under a caution, they're 2 laps down, finally the engine blows. I mean, you can't dream it up to be that bad. It's just unbelievable. If I'm Rick Hendrick, I think, you know what, I'm going to stick with these guys because truly it can't get any worse than this. It's just really sad. I felt so bad for him today. He handled it well, I thought, after the race ended. But he's got to be shaking his head at this point saying, my goodness, what did we do wrong? Who did we make mad? So something's got to go right for that team. You would think it's got to balance out at some point.
Well, there's a lot of things going right now for Brad Keselowski. A solid finish for him, 13th. What does Roger Penske think right now, knowing he signed this guy for next year?
Boy, oh boy, he's got to be just licking his chops thinking, was this the right decision or what? I mean, you know, and in the opposite situation, Rick Hendrick has got to be thinking, golly, I wish I had a spot for this guy. You know, he can drive. He can definitely drive. As a matter of fact, there was one point today, Mike, where NASCAR officials had to warn him about driving too hard against the other chase guys. They said, hey, Brad, take it easy. You know, these guys are actually running for a championship and you're not. But he's an aggressive driver. He's clearly got skills. You know, remember, he finished 13th today with his nationwide crew. And those guys are pretty good, but they're not as good as a Cup crew. That's why when you run a 5th car for a team like that, usually it doesn't go so well because your crew's just not going to be as good. So for him to race that well with a crew that's probably not up to standards of your normal Cup crew, that says a lot.
Okay, while we're on the subject of aggressive drivers who have skills, let's talk a little bit about Kyle Busch. 12th today. Not being in the chase, how do you think that's affecting his driving style?
Well, you know, you could easily say it's made him less aggressive because he has now gone 4 consecutive races without leading a lap. He hadn't done that all season, Mike. He's also failed to lead a lap in 8 of the last 11 events. So, to be honest, and before the chase started, there was a tendency that things weren't going as well. And he does have 2 top 5s in the chase, I realize that, but he just doesn't seem to be driving on the edge like you expect from him in some of these events. And I think it's had an effect on him. I think, you know, not competing for the championship has hurt him a little bit because he's a guy that has to try to win for a reason. You know, it's so important for him to win, and knowing that he can't compete for the title, it seems he's lost a little bit of that aggressiveness.
Well, there is always next year, as they say, and I understand you're already looking ahead to next year and have some dark horses for us. Who are they?
You know, on my chats all the time, Mike, people say, who can I look to next year to be a contender that's not a contender right now? Well, after the last few weeks, I would tell those people David Rudiman. You know, he finished 8th today, was the only non-chaser in the top 10. He's finished in the top 12 in 4 of the last 7 races. And he's racing really well. And that team, you know, Michael Waltrip Racing is way better this year. They're going to be even better next season. I think when he has Truex as a teammate, that will make him even better. I look for big things from David Rudiman in the future.
All right, Terry, great talking to you as always. We look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Okay, Mike, thanks.
Winning always brings out the best in Tony Stewart. Hear what he said in the media center following this race about being in Jeff Gordon's seat. It'll make you laugh. Be sure to join us here Monday night for NASCAR Now's roundtable recap of the Kansas race. Host Alan Bestwick will be joined by Boris Said, Ray Evernham, and Ricky Craven. That starts at 6 p.m. Eastern here on ESPN2. Time now to go to the media center and hear some very interesting comments from the race winners.
Jeff Gordon was in here and mentioned
He came in here? Jeff
yeah,
Gordon came in
he
here?
He did, yeah.
Wow.
I know, you're amazed.
That's awesome, man. I never would have thought Jeff Gordon would have came in here. That's pretty cool.
You're sitting right there, I believe.
He was sitting right here?
Yeah, man.
Oh, my God. I'm sitting in the seat Jeff Gordon sat in. That's awesome. Can I take this home? Can I take this? I mean, I won the race. Can I take this chair? Thank you. I'll send somebody back for it after I leave.
Okay.
But go ahead. I'm trying to continue.
He said that if this was the old system, you'd be running away with it. Is that something?
Yeah, but
it's
not the old system.
I mean, do you
so
guys
why
even
are we talking about the old system?
Well, I didn't even.
Don't. In case you didn't know, we haven't used that system for 5 years now. So why are we talking about the old system?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, do you even?
No, you guys are the ones that bring it up. We don't care. We know what the system is.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon mentioned it. He was sitting right there. He used that same microphone.
You would think I would feel the vibe from it right now and understand that, but I don't even talk about the old system because we don't use it anymore. I mean, it's not even a factor in the equation. So it's like, yeah, we know we would have, but that's not what system we run under. We all know it's starting the year, and unless they go back to who cares?
I guess my point.
Except for Jeff Gordon.
I guess my point was after leading in the points all year long and then falling back a little bit at the beginning, then that wasn't a factor at all for you guys.
In what way?
I mean, you didn't let that get you down at all, and
you're kidding, right?
I'm struggling.
We know what the system is, so we knew that when we got
But
past
you fell
Richmond,
from first to whatever.
Yeah, but you know that can happen. I mean, everybody's points are reset. The whole field was within 40 points of each other going into Loudon. I mean, it doesn't take a math major to understand what the system is.
Or a journalist.
Obviously.
Tony being Tony. When we come back, we'll hear from his crew chief, Darian Grubb, and what he had to say after the victory in Kansas. For the first time in the chase, Tony Stewart showed the form that made him the regular season champion. Picks up his 4th win of the season after leading 37 laps in Kansas. Now is 4th in the standings, 67 points out of 1st. To win these races, you certainly need to have sound pit strategy, and the 14 team certainly had that in Kansas. Joining us now is the winning crew chief, Darian Grubb. And Darian, it came down to a gutsy pit call, the call to go for 2 tires on that final stop. What gave you the confidence to do that?
It was basically Tony Stewart's ability in the race car, and we'd already done 2 stops earlier, and it worked really well with the race car. Tony was a little bit too free. We knew the 2 tires tightened us up a little bit that run before, so that was about all the change we made, that and a little bit of air pressure. And pit crew did a phenomenal job for the Office Depot Old Spice team and got Tony out in front. He was able to pick his lane, then able to just take off and leave those guys. It was just a pretty easy decision when it came down to that, knowing that you had to just rely on Tony to get that restart.
All right, so what was it like for you up on that pit box as the 16 and 24 tried to chase you guys down?
It's pretty nerve-wracking. You knew that they had a little bit better tires and they were probably going to be able to make up some ground, but luckily they had to race each other and Tony got that track position taken off. We knew how much clean air was worth. 2 tires before recently have been about as fast as 4 tires as long as you're in the front, but if you're 2nd or 3rd, you start falling back pretty heavy. So luckily Tony got that track position and we were able to maintain it.
Now, Darian, something we've been talking about throughout the course of the year is your alliance with Hendrick Motorsports, which leads me to this question. In light of what happened with the 5 and the 48 team earlier this week, how concerned are you that your car from today will face the same type of scrutiny that those 2 cars faced?
Every team in this garage faces the same scrutiny of NASCAR. They do a really good job of policing everything. We hang our own bodies and everything at Stewart Haas Racing. We feel pretty confident. We've sent 5 cars over there this year already, so I really feel like we're going to be fine when we go this week.
All right, so how close to tolerance are you guys?
Where everybody's within the tolerance, I think. I don't think anybody's bold enough to try to go outside those tolerances, but a lot of it comes down to the measurement process, and just we're building these cars out of sheet metal and fiberglass and everything ourselves. It's all hand built. It's kind of hard to hold things to the thousandths of an inch when you're talking about a car that's about 14 foot long. So when you're doing that, it gets pretty touchy, but we feel like we're within that box.
All right, you know the guys at Hendrick Motorsports better than most. I mean, after all, you spent the majority of your career over there. At what point do those guys get tired of seeing you beat them with their equipment?
I'm sure they like to say it's their equipment, but it's a chassis program and an engine program that we use from them, and those are very, very strong programs. Got a lot of compliments to go out to Mark Whitten and his guys and Jeff Andrews and Scott Maxim and all they do in the engine shop. Both those chassis and engines are very, very strong, but we do hang our own bodies. We got 150 employees there at Stewart Haas Racing that work very hard for everything we go out there and earn. And it's fun competition with those guys. We do talk a lot and we understand what's going on in each company, but by doing that, it makes it victory that much sweeter when you know you got there and beat those guys.
Okay, earlier in the chase you said it's going to take wins to capture this championship. How many wins do you think it's going to take?
It's still to be seen, but you know, as soon as that first race happened and Mark Martin won that one, he was already leading the points. And you knew now basically you're going to have to win at least 2 races because he finished 2nd in the second one just to be able to make up that point gap. Just the history of the chase and what's been going on in the last few years, you're definitely going to have to win, I'd say, probably 3 races before you're going to have that chance or have a really solid top 3 finish every race, just because those averages, they mean a lot now, but those top 12 drivers, they're the ones that got those averages just keep plummeting every year, and the effort has to step up just to be able to keep up with those stats.
Well, you got 7 races to capture a couple more wins. Good luck with that, and thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks a lot, guys.
3 down, 7 to go. When we come back, we'll talk about the Auto Club Speedway, round 4 of the chase, and what you can expect in Fontana. No chaser has a better average finish at California than Jimmy Johnson. He's won 2 of the last 4 races there, finishing 9th in the spring. Carl Edwards isn't far behind, though. He's failed to finish outside the top 10 only once in 10 career races at the Auto Club Speedway. And Jeff Gordon is third best. He's matched Jimmy Johnson with 3 California wins. And as we head to Fontana, Boris, of the Chasers, who do you think is going to be strongest?
Well, I think you got to go with Jimmy Johnson, as always, and Jeff Gordon. Between the two of them, they've won 6 times there. But after this weekend, the Roush Fenway guys look like they gained some progress in their mile-and-a-half stuff. So on the 2-mile track of Fontana, I think Greg Biffle is going to be tough.
Yeah, and, you know, there might be a non-chaser who finally gets to victory lane as well. Remember back in February, it was Matt Kenseth who went to victory lane at the Speedway. Didn't have a great race today, but showed some signs of re-emerging as a contender a week ago in Dover. He could be a contender this coming week in Fontana. We leave you now with a shot of the victor, and that being Tony Stewart picking up his first chase win of the year and his 4th of the season. Good night, everyone.